drive sa NLEX kasi nawawala yung aking connector. Wala yung nandun lang. So, praise the Lord. But anyway, this morning, let me take you to the second portion of the Word of God in Luke chapter 15, which talks about the parable of the prodigal son. And I've already told you that this parable is all about joy and happiness. Could anyone here show your seatmate your most joyous face this morning? Yes, okay. Show your seatmate your most joyous and most happy face. Show to him or her that you are happy being here at Phoebe's College of Bible. Amen? You don't look like it. You don't feel like it yet. I know. If only semestral break would be 3 weeks or 4 months, that would be the day. Why are you clapping? All your teachers are here. Well, the parable of the prodigal son, Luke chapter 15, verse 1 to 3. Jumping on 11 to verse 32. Now, yesterday I did not talk about the context, but the 3 parables in the context possess a common surface structure. First man is the introduction. What man when he lost his sheep? What woman when she loses a coin? And then the third, a man had 2 sons. The second common surface structure of this parable, these 3 parables, is that something was lost. The sheep was lost, a drachma was lost, and a son was lost. And the third feature is that the sheep was found, the coin was found, and later the son was found by the father, waiting for the son's return. Sheep don't return to the fold. Coins don't move anywhere, but sons can go back. The fourth feature of these 3 parables is that all of the 3 call friends and neighbors. And this is entirely the point of the whole thing. The man rejoiced. He called his neighbors and friends and said, "Come, rejoice with me, because my lost sheep has been found." And then this woman who lost the coin, she called out her friends. And then they rejoiced over this one coin that was lost. You might be asking, why? Piso na yan, wala. Anong kahalagaan mo? Actually, when you look at the context, it's 10 coins. And usually when it's 10 coins, it possesses a sentimental value. You know, in the Eastern situation, women wore their rings in their heads. They wore 10 rings to symbolize that they are first married. She would string 10 coins together and wear them across her forehead as a public announcement of her marriage. It's just like having a wedding ring. So that if one of those coins was lost, it's as if that her life was lost. You know how women are paired with men. Losing one is similar to losing a diamond or one's wedding ring. A loss not only because of monetary value, but because of sentimental value. So this is very important. And the third story that we dealt with yesterday and today is about the prodigal son. The esteemed Jewish historian or theologian G.C. Montefiore once said that these parables were revolutionary not because while the rabbis agreed that God would welcome a repentant sinner, these were revolutionary because God seeks sinners. And it was a new insight. It was God looking out for the lost sheep. It was God looking out for the lost coin. And it was God waiting for the son to come back. And so we take a look at the verse again. Let me begin with the beautiful part, verse 20. I like this part. And he arose and he went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him. That means his father was waiting for him. And his father felt compassion. It was a it was coming from his heart, from his inward being. He had compassion and ran and embraced and kissed him. Although the son, of course, was disheveled. This son, of course, was wearing rags already. And he had no more sandals on his feet. That means that he lost everything. Even the shoes on his feet, he sold it. It's just like the man in OLX or in BibleDepot.com who sold everything that he had, even his own shoe. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your servant, to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, bring quickly the best robes. So there were a few items. The first one was, bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. And bring the fattened calf and kill it. And let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And then they began to celebrate. Again, the theme of this chapter is celebration, joy, happiness. Still, I can see that in your faces this morning. Maybe you are, identifying with the second son. Meanwhile, verse 25, the older son was in the field, at least for right now. When he came near the house, he heard karaoke music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and he asked him what was going on. He didn't know what was going on. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf. And because he has him back safe and sound. The word there, safe and sound, is the word hygiene. He's clean already. He's safe and sound. By the way, the word music and dancing, this is the only places where you find these words in the New Testament. The passage going on, the symphonia refers to a band of music. They had a band. Band music and perhaps singing. Flute players were probably supplied the music, but the term does not refer to a single instrument. It was a symphony orchestra playing in the background. And then another apostolegomena is the word chorus, singing, which could also refer to dancing. So if you cannot sing, you just dance, okay? So which refers to dancing. It was the men who danced. It was a circle dance. You see all those Jewish movies. It was the male dancers who danced. And something is happening there. But the elder brother does not know the cause of that celebration. And so, what was his reaction? Verse 29b. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out again. Here's the second time the father goes out of his house. Second time he goes out of his house in order to plead, in order to go to a son. So his father went out and pleaded with him. The tense here means he repeatedly did the same thing, the pleading. He was almost as if he was kneeling before the son, pleading, coaxing him to come, get in. But he answered his father, look, I want to stop there. Look, does not even have the respect to call him my father. Did not have the shame to call the person in front of him, my father, are you out of your mind? He doesn't look. Some people would call this the parable of reversal. The Parable of reversal means that the son who was lost and was outside is now inside. And while the inside elder brother was now complaining outside. There was a party going on inside and there was grumbling going on outside. It's a parable of reversal. The son who was faithful and obedient, the other son, even to the point of working like a slave, he has no reward and he has no celebration. While the son who wandered and squandered is given a huge celebration. You know, when they put out the fattened calf, kailan ito nilalabas? During weddings only. In the birthday, in the baptism, in the child dedication, weddings. Minsan ka lang ikasal, pwede mo. So extra. They only break out of fattened calf during weddings. And yet, here was this father who lavishly, prodigally gave all this. The son who squandered is given a huge celebration, while the faithful son who was here had none, not even a gold. That's anesthesia. And then earlier you found that I failed to mention this yesterday. The prayer of the son. The first son, the prodigal son, he said, give me. When he came back, he said, make me. It's a parable of reversal. Then verse 29b comes the complaining. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I would celebrate with my friends. Take notice of those words, my friends. But when this son of yours, again, he heaps upon heaps of insult right to his face. If the prodigal son has slapped his father once, this was a slap fest. But when this son of yours, I have nothing to do with him. He doesn't have the law to call him, this is my brother. He didn't have the law to call the person in front of him, my father. Look. But when this son of yours who was squandered your property with prostitutes comes home. Now, where did he get that idea? The father did not rush out to find the son, the prodigal son, because he did not know where to find him. Kung ayaw mo magpahanap, ayaw hanapin. So he was dead for them. In fact, if during Jewish culture would rule out, would give a ruling that when a son does this, the prodigal son shames his father, he's dead to the family, and they would have a legal funeral service, an actual funeral service. So there was no connection. Out na siya sa buhay nila. So he does not know where to find him. Hindi niya alam kung saan siya pumunta. Ano kanyang ginawa? Now, where did he get the idea that he would lavish his money on prostitutes? Probably he did. Okay. But where did he get the idea? It's as if, remember what I told you yesterday, it's as if that the problem of the prodigal son, the younger son, is the same problem with the older son. If he were in that place, this is what would I have done. I would go to prostitutes. I would lavish my money on friends and wine and drink. This is what I do. Lumalabas na pag-aalala sa kanyang mga pananalita. But when the son of yours who was squandering property with prostitutes comes home, you killed the fattened calf for him. Then take note of the reaction of the father. He has just been slapped pula-pula yung kanyang pisngi. My son. It's very, very beautiful. The word son, my son. The word son and my father repeated in all of this chapter. My son, the father said, you are always with me. And everything I have is yours. Technically, he was right. Di ba hinati na yung property? 1/3 to the younger brother. Basta yun. 2/3 kanino? Sa father or sa older son? It was the older son's already. And yet, the father was the manager yet because he was still alive. And so he was saying the truth. All I have is He was lost and is found. It's nice to take a look at the Father's heart. What makes the Father glad? What makes God happy? Is it a grade of 1.0 in biological science? Is it a perfect attendance? Is it a good record on your transcript of records? What makes the Father glad? Is it good facilities? Good facilities are good. It's great. Is it being enrolled this semester? Does it make the Father glad? According to this verse, this chapter, no. It's when a soul repents, goes back to the Father. That's what makes heaven rejoice. All these things, of course, are important. Being taught how to be a pastor, how to be a preacher is good. It helps. But when we come out to the world and when we forget to share the gospel, we have lost the Father's happiness. So let me divide this into two. The first one is characters of the pouting son. I'd like to call him the prodigal son and then the pouting son. So what are the characters of the pouting son? First one is an angry spirit of grumbling. Verse 28 tells us that he became angry. He became angry at the news. The word here is orge, which means he flew into rage. Rather than joining the party, the elder brother was angry. The word here carries the idea of swelling, lumalaki. Settled anger that rises like a sap in a tree on a hot day. Or yung papatubo sa tinapay, orchid, yun. Lumalaki yung kanyang galit. He was beginning to be peaceful. Okay na ako, kaya ko ito. But when he saw his father coming toward him, mas nagalit siya. And while they were speaking, they were talking, mas nagalit siya. It was puffing out. When his father came out to plead with him and join the party, he began to grumble and complain. He said, "I've never left home and spent all my belongings, my money on prostitutes, and you never even killed a little billy goat for me." Can you hear him whining? An angry spirit of grumbling. When students get a grade less than expected, don't grumble. Just do better next time. When you have set a goal for yourself, professionally, you have not reached it, don't grumble. Maybe it's not your time. Characters of the pouting son, number one, an angry spirit of grumbling, number two, an inflated sense of goodness. Inflated sense of goodness. Another characteristic of the older brother can be found in verse 21. He exaggerates his own goodness and he exaggerates his brother's wickedness. Prostitutes, masama talaga yan. This son of yours. Look at verse 29. Let's have a game, okay? And you count all the personal pronouns in this verse. But he answered to his father, "Look, all the years I've been slaving for you, and I never disobeyed your orders, and yet you never gave me even a young goat so that I could celebrate with my friends." My friends are not your friends. My brother is not my friend. 5 times he used the first person pronoun. And this little brat of yours goes off and spends all your money on prostitutes. We aren't told in the previous verses where. He exaggerated his own goodness at the expense of others. Don't do that. Number 3, a faulty understanding of grace. The older brother insulted because he really thought that he deserved the fattened calf. He really thought that he deserved all the attention. At least a goat, perhaps. He was offended wasn't right. The legalistic thinking of the older brother. It's not fair. It's not right. You know, all the field work that my brother has been doing, and yet he is now gone. Guess who does all his work? Me. And yet you did not even celebrate. You should be reminded that Jesus was telling this to the Pharisees, and they don't have to explain what they are and who they are. Legalistic, rules-driven, godless, and unhappy people. Of course, that does not describe us or you. You're happy now, right? You had a faulty understanding of grace. You know, as I was reading this text, especially verse 32, it only dawned upon me that the party was not for the older brother. Of course, it was not for the older brother. The party was not even for the younger son. Guess who the party is for? The party is for the one who rejoices. It's my party, says the Father. It's my party, so join me. For a long time, I missed what the Father was really saying in verse 32. But as I studied in the original Greek, of course, I saw it. What the Father was actually saying, son, you and I have to celebrate. It is imperative that we celebrate. The verb is imperative there. He was saying, it's not your younger brother's party, it's my party. I'm the one who's celebrating because my son was dead and now he's alive. So you must join me, not for your brother's sake, but for my sake, said the Father. The party was not for the prodigal son, but it was for the loving Father. So you see, in all of this chapter, the point of the three parables in Luke chapter 15, the celebration over the lost things being found. In these three stories, you can see the Trinity at work. The shepherd found the lamb, and that's like the word of the Son of God, Jesus. The woman found the coin that represents the searching work of the Holy Spirit. She searches. And the dad forgave the wayward son. That's the word of God the Father. And in all three parables, God was the one who was celebrating. It was God. It was not the sheep. It was just fun being with the 99 other sheep. The coin, celebrate. The prodigal son was just happy that he has a cloth on his robe on his back and sandals on his feet. And yet, celebration, karaoke, dancing, everything. Wow, this was undeserved. Did you see the Pharisees now? They're smirking. God was the one who was celebrating. To every pouting prodigal, God says, come join me in the celebration, because there is joy in the presence of angels over one who repents. John Piper would say later, God is most glorified in us when we are most satisfied in Him. And the Westminster Confession would continue to say that the chief end of man is to glorify God by what? Enjoying Him forever. You are happy, glad with God forever. Lewis Speeds would say, to miss out on joy is to miss out on the reason for your existence. That's that. And I forgot to change his name. That's C.S. Lewis, not Lewis Speeds. At least this Lewis is still there. Please forgive me. Accept me. It is a Christian duty, as you know, for everyone to be happy as he can. By C.S. Lewis. Okay, now let's go to the second part of the parable, the message to the Pharisee. already. The message to the Pharisee. We have 3 points. Number 1, access to God's resources does not mean responsibility toward God. So check your head. Access to God's resources does not mean irresponsibility toward God. The elder brother, the older son, had access to everything that the father had. He had his clothes, he had his food, he had his shoes, he had his face, he had his toothbrush, everything. But access to God's resources does not mean that you fly out in the face of God in the midst of unfairness in this world. Check your head. The father said, all I have is yours. Literally, what is left of the property is yours, older son. And so the older brother cannot put his head around the idea that this is already my money to rent out the band, to invite dancers and singers, to have all this food. Whose money is this? That's mine, actually. He had resources, yes. Of course, we know that in the Bible, when you have resources, you have power. And as Spider-Man would say, when you have great power comes great responsibility. So he had also great responsibility. So my question is, as an older brother, where were you? If you had that responsibility, you had the resources, you had the power, and now you are responsible for your family, or at least for your brother. Where was he? Where was he when the younger son shamed his father by asking too many and too much and too soon? That's unchecked. As an older brother, he could have defended the father. He was not there in the story. Absent. Verse 25 na lang po. Where was he when the brother left? That's my question. As an older brother, he would have been responsible. The context of this is that these 3 parables, somebody lost something, and somebody had to look for what was lost. Sheep was lost, coin was lost, the brother was lost. Of course, it's the father's responsibility to seek. But the father manages the affairs of the hacienda. So it was the brother's turn. It was his personal mission to look for his brother. And yet his answer to that, am I my brother's keeper? No. The question is, where was he when the son returned? The whole village was in a frenzy. Free food, great party. Of course he knew. Access to God's resources does not mean irresponsibility toward God. Check your head. You know, sometimes when you pastors, you musicians or teachers, future teachers, you get a taste of success. Get a taste of people hanging on to the words of your mouth when you're preaching the word. Students teaching, students learning from you as you're teaching. People amazed at the beauty of your voice when you're singing. Don't let success get into your head. Hindi ibig sabihin, pinagpala ka, ay lalaki na ang ulo niyo. Or natin. Many of us, or you, will become pastors of churches, big and small. Don't let success get into your head. Or professional teachers, public, private, anywhere. Don't let success get into your head. Or missions workers, don't let success get into your head. So the first one is access to God's resources does not mean irresponsibility toward God. Number 2, working for God does not mean slaving for God. Here is where I will stay the most. Still have time, right? Working for God does not mean slaving for God. So check your head. The older brother is saying, I have worked for you. No, that's not his words. His words is, all my life I have slaved for you. What the younger son felt fortunate to become, listen to this. What the younger son felt fortunate to become, make me a servant, make me a doulos, make me a slave. I want to become your slave. After you have forgiven me, after you have accepted me, after you have pardoned me, as a way of restitution, please make me a slave. I want to become a slave. I want to serve you. In response to your graciousness, O Father, in response to your love, I want to serve you. And yet the older brother despises being a slave to his father. See what I did there? You can actually serve God happily being a slave, or grumblingly being a slave. Check your head. The father said, you have always been with me, which means I treasure relationship more than your work. You've always been with me. It's not your work that I cherish, it's you. It's not your work that I'm happy. Of course, I'm happy that you till the field and you feed the cows, but I'm more happy that I still have you, my son. Just knowing that you are here at home with me gives me great sense of enjoyment. To Mr. or Mrs. or Miss Pharisee here in the chapel, God doesn't want your service as much as He wants you. Then it says, for many years I've been serving you. Duyo. That's slave language. Doulos. That's no fun posture. No joy. And what indicates in the heart of this guy is this horrible grit in your teeth, grind your way through years and years of slugging out through slavery to a man he does not even respect as a father. Actually, he was just waiting for the father to die so that he get his 2/3 of the share. That's just my idea. I'm reminded by the story of Mary and Martha. Both are in the same room, the same house as Jesus is. Martha was slaving away in the kitchen, no problem with that. While Mary was sitting at Jesus' feet, she became angry at Mary. It's a sister thing. Okay? Pag may kapatid kayo, magagalit talaga yun. Kaya yung anak ko, dadalawa lang yung gaaway talaga kahit anak pa ng mga pastor yun. It's a curse. Okay? Jesus said, Mary has chosen the one thing that will never be taken away from her, a relationship with Jesus. Listen to this, my friends. Some Christian work can never be, although some Christian work, however so hard, can never be substituted for worship. Are you working for the Lord, or are you worshiping the Lord? How's your work? Kumusta trabaho mo? And I'm not referring only to the faculty and staff who's working right now or here, but for the students who are here also. You know, each one of you students are right now working for a degree. So how's your work going? Kumusta? Kumasama o kasalawa? We should be better workers for the Lord as a response to the grace which God appropriated for us. This is the time that I'll show a slide na gusto ko. This is my wife, and we've been married for 12 years. And we've been boyfriend and girlfriend for 21 years, don't count. For 21 years, and this was our 15th year, or our 180th monthsary together. We waited 9 years before getting married. That's a long time. Pero sa tamang panahon. But anyway, my wife says when I applied for full-time work here at previous, and it's always the wife who's asking the questions, right? I just decided it's the wife's word who analyzes everything. And she asks me, and she's also from previous, so she knows. You working full-time at previous? That means you'll be there from 8 to 5 schedule with the daily time records, with the office intrigue, with the students who would, what do you do to your teachers? During my time, meron po kaming lugar, alam ko ng mga teachers na nakasama ko dati. Meron pong lugar sa previous dati, ang tawag po ay upuan ng mga manlilibak. Hulaan mo po kung nasaan iyon. So, ngayon nandyan pa rin yan, upuan ng manlilibak. Kapag kayo mo inawag po sa lugar na yan, wala kang ibang gagawin kundi manlilibak ka. I don't know how, pero ganun talaga, nandun yung aking mga classmates. Sila Jess, sila talagang bibigyan pangalan. Then nakaupo lang sila doon, pero hindi ko lang pag naupo sila doon, siguro yung vantage view, kita mo lahat, yung mga nagso-socializing, yung lakad ni ganito, yung ganito, kita mo lahat. That's Vegas family, that's Vegas culture for us, right? This is Vegas anyway. And then my wife would ask, Jan, papasok ka sa ganyan? My response, buti nilang wala siya, kaya ngayon hindi siya sumama at iyo kasi chichika ko siya sa inyo. Dalang magkwento. My response, I told her, Kathy, we've been married 12 years and I've been serving you for 12 years. Not out of duty, but out of delight because I love you and I want to live the rest of my life with you. Which reminds me, we're here not because of duty, but of delight. We're not here because we're working to get a paid allowance or salary. We're not here because we're working for a grade. We're working for God, for Jesus. Let's all remind ourselves, and I know that we already know this, but a reminder for the new semester is in order. Let's remind ourselves, we're serving. I'm serving God and not anyone. Say that to your seatmates this morning. I'm serving God. And I'm delighted to serve God. Listen to these students. The grades don't matter. Yes, it matters. The grades don't matter. The DTR does not matter. The paycheck does not matter. The salary does not matter. You matter to God. And yet he said, he answered to his father, look, all these years I've been slaving for you. Never disobeyed your orders. Huh? Never for once? Never. As in, wala. Lahat ng utos mo, ginagawa ko. Zero. You see legalism. It's always counting stuff. Look at me. I'm always following you. And never neglected a command of yours, and yet you have never given me even a fattened calf or anything. That's not fair. That's not equitable. That's not just. That's unrighteous, Pastor. Remember the time when Jesus, with the self-righteous man, the rich young ruler, he asked, how can I go to heaven? He said, do this, do this, do this. And then, I like this smirk on his face, showing. I saw this painting in Chicago. For a while I was standing, amazed at how the painted it with the smirk on his face. It's just right. sakto lang ng pagka-smirk. Sabi niya, I did all these things. Here are the commandments. I kept all those. Here is a proud hypocrite, the rich young ruler. Another proud hypocrite was a Pharisee named Paul. He was killing Christians because he hated grace. That's unfair. He said, why are all these Christians happy and I'm not? I'm serving God. It was Paul, you remember that in Philippians chapter 3 verse 6, he said, I'm blameless according to your law. That's how I live my life, under the illusion that I was absolutely blameless. And these Christians, with their message of grace, forgiveness, were violators of God's holy law. And he went everywhere, could not breathe without breathing threats to Christians, and slaughtering and imprisoning and killing them, all because he doesn't understand what grace is all about. Actually, when the older son talked to his father, it was again a reversal. There was a reversal process there. You still mad? You know what the son is really saying? Father, I don't need to ask you for forgiveness. That's why I'm here. Hindi ako hingi ng tawad sa iyo. I haven't done anything. I obeyed all your rules. But I'll tell you something. You need to ask me for forgiveness on what you have done. That's my money. That's your son. You need to ask forgiveness. But sorry ka naman magalit. Reversal. That is the outrage of legalism. It demands that God forgives us for a violation of our understanding. It thinks the Father needs to ask Him for forgiveness. Baliktad. Third and finally, nearness to God does not mean closeness to God. So check your heart. Nearness to God does not mean closeness to God. We miss the point. In my introduction yesterday, I said, let's talk about joy. Being near to God does not mean that God is automatically happy because you are near Him. Right? Last time I checked, an angel named Lucifer did that to God. An apostle named what? Judas did that to Jesus. Nearness to Christ, to God, does not mean closeness to God. The point is, my friends, we're here, you're enrolled. School year 2015-2016, second semester. We're here in this seminary, very close to God as can be, as we can be, probably. But your life can be furthest from God for all we know. Your life can be furthest away from God when you forget that we should be doing the things that make God happy. Our lives will be furthest away from God when we forget to do the things that make Christ happy, receiving sinners in the fold. I like the title of one sermon, sermoncentral.com. It says there, the parable of the prodigal who never left. It was a prodigal that leave. Let me go to the story of when Jesus was lost at the temple. Turns out, my friends, it's very easy to lose Jesus while we are serving Jesus. Okay? So, nandun sila sa temple, sama-sama nila si Jesus, pauwi na sila, naglalakad sila, wala si Jesus. Tapos yung sound, calling the parents of this lost young boy wearing red shirt and long pants. Joseph, Mary, where's Jesus? JC. Sabi ni Mary kay Joseph, I thought he was with you. No, he was with me. Let's find JC. Some of you, let's admit, some of you already turned off your ears in this message thinking, okay, that's not me. I'm here. I'm enrolled. Okay, I'm